In ancient India, two massive factions amassed their forces on the fields of Kurukshetra for a conflict that would claim millions of lives. The tension was immense, setting the stage for one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. The records of this massive war survive in thousands of pages of ancient Sanskrit verse, but deep within the folklore surrounding the epic exists a single anomaly: a warrior who made those sprawling armies entirely irrelevant. His name was Barbarik, the grandson of the legendary powerhouse Bhim. Following years of intense meditation, Lord Shiva granted Barbarik exactly 3 divine arrows. He would never need a fourth. The system operated on strict logic. The first arrow marks the targets, the second protects your allies, and the third instantly annihilates everyone marked by the first. Before a single sword could be drawn, an entire battlefield was rapidly categorized into 2 neat columns: people who would live and people who would die. Barbarik bypassed the entire concept of being a foot soldier. He functioned as a localized weapon of mass destruction. He could step onto a battlefield, fire 3 times, and an 18-day bloodbath would be erased in under a minute. However, there was a massive operational flaw in his programming. Before leaving for the war, Barbarik made a strict vow to his mother: he would always fight for the losing side. Here is the game theory puzzle that breaks the war. Imagine Barbarik joins the smaller force. He fires his 3 arrows and instantly wipes out the dominant army. Because the dominant army is dead, his former allies suddenly have no opponents. They mathematically become the new losing side. To honor his vow, Barbarik must immediately switch sides and attack the very people he just saved. This triggers an infinite feedback loop. He jumps from side to side, systematically executing the survivors until the population of the entire battlefield drops to 0. His noble intention to protect the weak created an unsolvable paradox. Letting Barbarik anywhere near Kurukshetra guaranteed mutually assured destruction. Lord Krishna, the supreme strategist of the epic, saw the math playing out. If this anomaly reached the front lines, destiny would unravel. To intervene, Krishna disguised himself as an ordinary Brahmin and intercepted the young warrior on the road. Krishna looked at Barbarik's tiny quiver and asked how exactly he planned to win a global conflict with 3 arrows. To test him, Krishna pointed to a massive peepal tree and challenged him to pierce every single leaf. Barbarik smiled. He fired a single shot, and the divine arrow began violently zipping through the canopy, tagging thousands of leaves in seconds. But Krishna had quietly pulled a countermaneuver. He slipped one fallen leaf directly beneath his own foot, hiding it from view. The arrow didn't stop. It dropped down to the dirt and hovered, vibrating aggressively right above Krishna's toes. Barbarik calmly warned the Brahmin to move, or the arrow would fulfill its programmatic duty and drill straight through his foot. The test confirmed a terrifying reality. Barbarik's system couldn't be tricked or outsmarted. It was absolute, inescapable, and a genuine threat to divine order. You cannot reason with an infinite death loop. The only logical way for Krishna to solve the paradox was to completely remove the variable from the equation. Dropping his disguise, Krishna asked the young warrior for a sacred donation. He looked Barbarik in the eyes and demanded his severed head. For a warrior holding the ultimate power on earth, you might expect resistance. Instead, Barbarik accepted the request with a calm smile. The text reveals a profound truth. A teenager surrendering his ego and his life achieved more to preserve the balance of the world than any physical weapon on the battlefield. Before turning over his life, Barbarik made one final, highly specific request. He wanted to watch the war. Krishna agreed, taking the severed head and placing it high atop a hill overlooking Kurukshetra. For 18 agonizing days, Barbarik watched the carnage play out as the sole, completely neutral observer. When the dust finally settled, the surviving heroes began to argue. Egos flared as kings and commanders debated whose specific tactical genius actually won the war. They turned to the hill for an impartial verdict. Barbarik's answer silenced them all. He stated clearly that he saw no mortal tactics and no individual heroism. He only saw Krishna's divine weapon, the Sudarshan chakra, moving through the ranks and orchestrating every single death. He stripped away their pride in an instant. The grand military strategies were an illusion, revealing that the true outcomes were dictated entirely by forces far above human agency. Krishna was deeply moved by this absolute clarity. As a reward for his staggering sacrifice, he granted Barbarik a sweeping boon meant entirely for our modern era. Because he was barred from physically supporting the losing side in ancient times, he would spend eternity doing it spiritually. He would become the ultimate refuge for the defeated. Today, he is worshipped under his modern identity, Khatu Shyam. He is the patron deity for anyone who has hit rock bottom, who feels crushed by the odds, and who has nowhere else to turn. When you observe the millions of people who flock to his temples, you realize something profound. His ancient programming is still running. He is still fulfilling his vow. The weapons that broke armies turned to dust centuries ago, but a single sacrifice, made for the sake of the defeated, earned a warrior true